two titans of music actually singing the song together. No one thought it would work, and yet it sold millions of copies of the record on both sides of the racial spectrum. Turning now to our panel, Democratic strategist Desiree Tims, Barak, Lurie, who is the author of Atheism Destroys, and David Grosso. Desiree, I'll begin with you. This bipartisan unity, it's been 5 years since Lisa Murkowski was on TV, so I didn't think the song, by the way, I thought the song stunk, but this time, Sunday show, did it work?
Absolutely not. I am not impressed by the love songs being sang by Senators Manchin and Murkowski. I'd actually be more impressed if they would actually do something for their constituents, like passing voting rights legislation, making sure they're taking a stance that aligns with the will of their constituents. We haven't seen that from Senator Murkowski nor Senator Manchin in the past weeks. And so I look forward to them coming together, talking about how they're going to support President Joe Biden's agenda.
Did I tell you, by the way, that cynicism is a city in Ohio, right? I think it's southwest of Cincinnati, but that's a story for another day. David, was this a shot across the bow to leadership on both sides of the aisle? You have two renegade senators and a 50-50 Senate.
Yeah, and with all respect to my favorite resident of cynicism in Ohio, I think this is exactly what's needed in American politics. Listen, we only have two parties. If you look at most Western democracies, there's a lot more than two parties. And there's room for dissent within those parties. And I think Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Joe Manchin of West Virginia are prime examples of that. And I'm quite frankly tired of seeing so much extremism on both sides. I agree with these two individuals more than I agree with mainline party people on either side. And while that may make me, unpopular with Cynicism Ohio and maybe the media and mainstream politics today, I think that's where most Americans' political opinions lie.
Barak, people don't realize that Frederick Douglass was actually very welcome at the White House, which is one of the stranger things in history. But this actually harkens back to the days when members of Congress actually went out drinking at night and played cards together. What happened? How did we get to where we are right now?
Well, it's a great question. I think that the polarity has happened for a whole bunch of reasons. Some of it technological, some of it because of the proliferation of media. I am a little bit more cynical about all this. I don't think that they're reaching out across the aisle because they love each other and they believe in bipartisanship. While I commend it, I think it's good. All the same, I think they do it because they really need each other. It is purely political on both of their ends. Murkowski needs Manchin, and Manchin needs Murkowski. They perceive it at least that way, and that's the reason why that is happening. I don't mind that. I think it's great. That everything is political in Washington, and that's how deals are done. At the end of the day, I think, Del, that you're 100% right. It would be better if in Washington we would have people getting together after the long, hard day and getting together for dinner and drinks and making things happen that way. That's always the best. People want to work together. And the reason why we're not getting the voting rights bill that the Democrats want is because they're not compromising, in my opinion. The reason why Republicans are not getting what they want is that they're not compromising. So this is the way things get done. It doesn't get done by ramrodding things, whether it's a 50 plus the Kamala Harris vote or otherwise. You need to get people from the other side of the aisle if you really want to make things stick.
Desiree, if it makes you feel any better, Cynicism, Ohio is the sister city of Las Vegas, Nevada. But I want to point out something that Lisa Murkowski said during the interview. She said she looked at the Build Back Better plan and said, why do we need to spend so much money on mass transit? She said it's big in the Northeast, but not so in Alaska. She said a lot of the places in Alaska that they need to reach are accessible only by plane. It wasn't that she agreed or disagreed, but at least you understood why she raised questions about Build Back Better, as opposed to what we saw when the bill was actually out there. So many people saying, well, he doesn't like it, or she doesn't like it, or this person's this person, and that person's that person. At least the dialogue was refreshing.
I think that Senator Murkowski also should have looked at Build Back Better and saw that how many women and families were excited about paid family and medical leave, the child care protections. I know people all across Ohio were really excited about the idea of having mass transit and transportation connecting Cleveland and Cincinnati to Chicago, much like people in the Northeast. And so there are people who have transportation needs in Alaska, just like there are people who have transportation needs in Nevada and Ohio. And so this is something that would have been beneficial to working class Americans and everyone who can't afford that car note or that auto loan or that bus pass. The bus doesn't go far enough. And so this was a big deal. And Murkowski and Manchin, they really fumbled the ball here with this one.
David, Barak is texting La La Land every time you speak, and I just think it's rude, but we won't even talk about that. But Joe Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, said something interesting in his interview. He said the reason he was always opposed to it had to do with the fact that it didn't go through the process. I don't know of a particular piece of legislation that had more process involved in it than the Build Back Better plan. It took months. What part of the process are we missing here?
You know, I don't really think that's a great explanation either. I think a much more fundamental explanation would have been that Build Back Better was so far reaching that it would have changed the structure of our economy, especially in an era of already high inflation. That much government spending probably isn't wise. Now, on the other hand, my friend from Cynicism, Ohio has a point. There are things in Build Back Better that would really help working class Americans that I think both parties would definitely jump on. But here's the thing, like our friend from Las Vegas says, we need a little compromise. And it can't just be ramrodding everything through. You need buy-in from the other side. And really, we've lost that in America. It seems like the ruling class and everyone who's in charge has no incentive to work together. They basically just rip everyone apart and then they get nothing done. So I think we can all agree on that, is that, yeah, sure, these bills are far too reaching. Maybe we should do it a little piecemeal, get some things through, especially, things like paid family leave, childcare. A lot of that would be popular and probably is a 70 or 80% issue in America, regardless of party. But now when you try to just, ramrod everything through a process that, let's face it, Del, is poorly understood by everyone, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Let me just point out for the record, I have no friends on this broadcast, but that's not different than my life. I have no friends. Barak, Desiree, David are going to stick around. When we come back, we are going to be talking about what is legitimate and what is not legitimate when it comes to protest. The Republican National Committee voting to formally censure these two of its own members, Representatives Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, involves their work investigating the January 6th insurrection. Friday passing a censure vote, voice vote only, but the language is raising a lot of eyebrows. The RNC saying that Cheney and Kinzinger are participating in what they call a Democrat-led persecution of ordinary citizens engaged in legitimate political discourse. The panel is back with us, and David, I'll begin with you. Legitimate political discourse, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's what we're all wondering, right? Liz Cheney's video with the January 6th marchers on Twitter with saying this is not legitimate political discourse was actually viewed 4 million times. And funny enough, Ronna McDaniel, the head of the Republican National Committee, who put out this press release with that shocking statement, was condemned by her own uncle, Mitt Romney, who, of course, was the 2012 nominee for the Republican Party. So there's a massive schism in the Republican Party, and there's a lot of different opinions. We can see Rick Scott, who is, of course, the governor of Florida, still supporting Lisa Murkowski, who is definitely does not believe that January 6th was legitimate political discourse. And we can see Marco Rubio saying, January 6th was bad, but what Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney are doing is also bad. So talk about a wide array of opinions on this issue and a growing schism within the Republican Party.
A Republican Governor Larry Hogan in Maryland and Barak saying it was a sad day for the party and the nation when Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to see Liz Cheney gone. Where is the breakdown in this party, and do you agree with Governor Hogan?
Well, I get there's a couple of things to talk about that. With regard to what Governor Hogan is saying about Greene, look, I agree that there is always sadness when there is discourse like that within any particular party, in this case, the Republican Party. That's fine. She has a very different approach than anyone else, not anyone else, but these moderates that we're talking about. And that's the big problem there. So that's fine. As to the political discourse and the legitimate political discourse, again, we cannot smear the entire group that was out there protesting and demonstrating with, simply because of the 1% or even less of the thugs who decided to go into the Capitol building and create the trespass and the damage to the property. So that's another thing. The last thing is the censure thing. I don't agree with the censoring. I think it's just not appropriate. It just leaves the door wide open to simply censor everybody who doesn't vote the way that they want them to vote. So I think that was a big miss on the part of the Republican Party, and for anybody who's calling for the censure in anything like that.
Barak, you know who's getting terribly smeared? The British. In 1814, when they burned Washington and sacked the Capitol, not everybody that was there, not every soldier decided they wanted to go in and burn. Some of them said to the British, this is really not a good idea. Maybe we should leave some of the Capitol standing. Yeah, we don't like them. We disagree with what they did. That Tea Party thing might have been a little over the top. But why do all of them have to be destroyed? Why do all of them have to go in and ransack the building? Because we're going to get blamed for this in history. How can you separate out what your eyes see and what the messaging is coming from the Republican Party?
Okay, so that is just a very poor comparison, Dell. I'm sorry. That just one is an act of war, and
well, it's
the
the
other
last
is about
time
a
anybody's
demonstration.
ransacked the Capitol.
Well, okay, so you can say that, but that's not the same thing. Burning the Capitol and saying that somehow some British soldiers just said, I don't feel like that this is too much or whatever it is, there's no comparison here. This is like saying that killings and war is the same thing as murders. They're not. There are very different things going on here, and I just demur to this comparison. Most of the people that were at the protests were there to protest peacefully. We all know that. The people who did actually trespass into the property of the Capitol didn't have, those people didn't have any guns, didn't have any knives. There was not this grandiose effort to overturn the government. There's nothing like that whatsoever. So the one person who did die was one of the protesters at the hands of the Capitol Police. So this is a very far cry from the comparison that you are making, where they're actually trying to burn the entire White House. No, sir.
Desiree, when you're singing Hang Mike Pence and you're building gallows in the back, this is really what normal tourists actually do in Washington, D.C., if you're listening to the RNC. And yes, they have every right to be upset with Kinzinger and Cheney trying to get to the bottom, because these people, they didn't really come with backpacks. Okay, they had some weapons on the outskirts of Washington stored in Virginia, automatic weapons. There were 2 pipe bombs found at the RNC. Pepper spray, bear spray, brass knuckles, beating cops to within inches of their lives. Other than that, it was legitimate political discourse. And I'll let you pick up the narrative from there.
It's really hard to dignify this idea with a response. Sure, they didn't have knives. They used flagpoles to break through the windows of the Capitol. Their bodily fluids were smeared all over the walls of the Capitol, in the rotunda. They were threatening members of Congress in their lives and Vice President Mike Pence in order to overturn an election. This was, by all intents and purposes, an attempted coup. It is something that if we don't call it out right now, regardless of your party, and respect the fact that what they did is ungodly, illegal, it's going to go down in history right alongside that 1814 narrative, because if we don't call it out now, we are prone to have it repeat itself. And so we must say what the thing is, which is it was a riot, it was an attempted coup. They were thugs. They were not protesters. They were not protesting for democracy. They were protesting to overturn the will of the voters in order to have their dictator take charge of this nation. So many officers died, not just the one officer that we see in the video, but how many of the Capitol Police officers have committed suicide because of the horrors that happened on January 6th.
Cynicism Ohio has just renamed itself Reality USA. Barak, Desiree, David, thanks for being with us. You are watching the second hour of DC Today. We will be right back.